Alec was just a mischievous kid who spent most of his time fooling around near the capital, doing random things like fishing by the river. One day, a shining magician named Eldest approached him and asked if he was interested in magic. At first, Alec thought Eldest was some kind of shady agent or something like that, but soon, he realized that Eldest genuinely wanted to teach him magic. Eldest began teaching him how to cast spells, but in a very different way. He would tell Alec to think about the friends he would make in the future, friends he might one day need to protect from monsters. Because of this emotional way of teaching, Alec learned magic incredibly fast. Still, he felt a little sad because it took him an entire day just to learn a simple spell. Eldest kept telling him that normal people take an entire month to learn the same spell. But Alec didn't pay much attention to that. He immediately asked Eldest to teach him another spell. Eldest laughed and said that one spell was enough for today. Alec got a little grumpy and sat there sulking. Eldest smiled and praised him, saying that Alec had incredible talent and that one day, even without him, Alec would become a great magician. He told him to leave everything to fate. Hearing that shocked Alec. He asked, "Then why are you teaching me at all?" Before Eldest could answer, a fish got caught on his fishing line. Eldest panicked because it was the first time in his life he had ever caught a fish. Alec burst out laughing and teased him, saying that for such a great magician he didn't even know how to fish. Both of them laughed loudly, and like that their teacher-student relationship continued. Time passed and Eldest taught Alec many things about magic. Then one day Eldest suddenly said that he was leaving the capital. Alec was heartbroken. He felt like he would never see his teacher again. Before leaving, Eldest gave him one final piece of advice. He said that if Alec ever got a chance to become a royal court magician, he should refuse it. Alec didn't understand why and asked again why Eldest taught him magic in the first place. Eldest smiled slightly and said that Alec's mother had once done something incredibly important for him and he was simply repaying that debt by teaching her son. That was the last time Alec ever saw his master. After that, Alec made up his mind to enter the Royal Magic Academy so that he could meet Eldest again. When he arrived there, he learned that Eldest had once been the Academy's top student and had become a court magician after graduation. But a few years later, he had been expelled from that position. Only then did Alec understand why Eldest had warned him against becoming a court magician. But instead of listening, Alec decided that he would become one himself and change the corrupt imperial court from the inside. Eventually, he achieved that dream. However, he soon realized that he should have listened to his master. One day in the middle of a dungeon, Crown Prince Regulus expelled Alec from his adventurer party. Shocked, Alec asked what he had done wrong. Regulus coldly replied that it was because Alec was useless. At that moment, Alec realized that everything Eldest had said was true. Regulus angrily said that he always risked his life fighting monsters on the front lines, while the fire magician Lenny pushed enemies back with powerful spells, and their tank companions blocked all attacks with their shields. Meanwhile, Alec always stayed in the back and could only use minor support magic. Mocking him, Regulus said they had no need for a loser like him in their party. He went on to say that Alec wasn't even worthy of being called a court magician. Alec tried to explain why he only used support magic, but Regulus refused to listen. Then Lenny interrupted and called Alec a coward, saying he had no courage at all. She said that every time they tried to go deeper into the dungeon, Alec was the one who stopped them. Even their tank silently nodded in agreement. Lenny added that they had only tolerated Alec until now because the king had ordered him to be part of their party. But now that the prince himself had kicked him out, there was no reason to treat him well anymore. Laughing, Regulus said that Alec probably topped the academy only because he sucked up to the professors. Everyone laughed at that and Alec lowered his head in shame. Then Regulus pointed at the dagger Alec carried and asked why a commoner was even allowed to carry a weapon. Calmly, Alec explained that the dagger would be useful on the next dungeon floor. That only made Regulus angrier. He snatched the dagger, grabbed Alec by the collar, and shouted that no one in his party was allowed to disobey him. Pulling on Alec's wizard robe, he said that Alec wasn't worthy of it. Completely broken, Alec left the dungeon without saying a word. Even after all the insults and humiliation, Alec still wanted to help them. He spent the entire night preparing notes about the lower dungeon floors so that Regulus could handle them, knowing that the prince didn't actually have much magical power himself. The next day, Alec went to the palace. But when he tried to meet the king, the guards stopped him. They told him that he was no longer a court magician. He was now just a commoner, and commoners weren't allowed inside without permission. And Alec was stunned. Just then, Lenny appeared and mocked him, telling him to get lost. As she walked toward the palace, Alec begged her to stop and asked her to at least listen once. He said that the king himself had made him a court magician and sent him to the prince's party. He asked her to give these notes to the king. Lenny took the notes, but in the next moment, she tore them apart and threw them on the ground, crushing them under her foot. Then she told the guards to throw this commoner out. Now, Alex stood in the middle of the city. Without hope, without a job, and without dignity, he finally realized that Eldest had been right. He should never have become a court magician. Just then, he heard a familiar voice. He turned around and saw a red-haired girl looking at him. In the next moment, she ran over and hugged him tightly. For a few seconds, Alec couldn't understand what was happening. Then, he recognized her. It was Yoda, his old friend from the academy days. They sat together and talked, and Alec told her everything about how he had been kicked out of the prince's party and stripped of his position as a court magician. Hearing this, Yoda became furious. She cursed the kingdom, saying that it was disgusting how much discrimination existed between nobles and commoners. Alec somehow calmed her down so that no one else would overhear them. Then Yoda smiled and said that this was actually a good thing. Alec wasn't surprised to hear that. After everything he had gone through in the last 2 days, nothing could hurt him anymore. Yoda reminded him of a promise she had made before, that one day she would definitely invite him into her party. Alec remembered it. She explained that she had come to the capital for that very reason. Standing up, she extended her hand toward him and said, "Come on, Alec. Let's conquer dungeons together." Alex's face lit up, but deep down he hesitated. After losing his job, he had lost confidence in himself. But Yoda didn't care about any of that. She clearly said that she only wanted him in her team and that no other magician could replace him. Hearing that, Alec became emotional and immediately accepted her offer. Yoda smiled happily and welcomed him to her A-rank party. The very next day, Alec left the country with Yoda. Along the way, he remembered Eldest's advice about never becoming a court magician. Now he finally understood that his master had been right. A few days later, news of Alec leaving the country reached Regulus and his party, but they didn't care. Regulus said that Alec had been called a genius at the academy and that trusting him had been a waste of their time. Laughing, Lenny said not to worry because soon a pure-blooded noble would join their party, making them even stronger. Meanwhile, Alec and Yoda arrived at a city called Exile, known as the City of Dungeons. Yoda explained that many adventurers lived there because nobles and commoners were treated equally. She was excited to register Alec as an adventurer, but as soon as they reached the guild, they were hit with shocking news. The receptionist said that Alec couldn't be registered in Yoda's party because her team went below floor 30 of the dungeon, and Alec needed at least 2 years of guild membership before he could enter such deep floors. Hearing that, Yoda became furious and demanded to know why an exception couldn't be made, saying that Alec was different. Duh. But the receptionist firmly refused. Yoda asks if her friend Crazia had come to meet them about this issue. The receptionist nods and says yes, she did come and she even threatened them, but people like that show up every day and they don't really care. Feeling disappointed, Alec and Yoda leave the guild and sit down in a public park. While having lunch, Yoda says that they have already reached dungeon floor 52 and they can't afford to wait for 2 years. But Yoda isn't the kind of girl who gives up so easily. She smiles and says that if they can't go to the deep floors yet, then they should start with shallow dungeons as a warm-up. Alec really likes her idea, and the two of them immediately head to a low-level dungeon filled with insect-type monsters. Yoda uses reinforcement magic to boost Alex's speed, and together they start defeating the monsters with ease. However, after a while, the situation starts getting serious. Yoda notices that the number of insects isn't decreasing. Instead, they're becoming stronger. Alec agrees and says that something must be wrong with their nest, which is why they're behaving like this. Still, he says everything is under control for now. They keep fighting. Suddenly, Yoda activates her shield and moves straight toward the nest. Alec tries to stop her, saying it's too risky, but she smiles and says it's nothing serious. She tells him that Alec isn't the same person he used to be. For the old Alec, monsters like these would have been nothing. She tells him to trust her and return to his true self. Her words hit Alec deeply. He realizes that Yoda is right. All he needs is to regain his confidence. He remembers Eldest's words that one day he would have to protect his friends from danger. At that moment, a new light returns to Alex's eyes. He immediately goes on the offensive, blasting several monsters away with fireballs and finishing the rest with his dagger. But then, a massive swarm surrounds them from all sides. Yoda doesn't panic at all. She creates a huge barrier to give Alec time to prepare a spell. Focusing all his power, Alec casts a powerful wide area spell, and in an instant, all the insects turn to ash. When everything calms down, Yoda laughs and pats him on the back, saying she told him he still had that power inside him. But suddenly, the ground starts shaking violently. The earth splits open, and a gigantic earthworm bursts out, attacking Yoda and almost swallowing her whole. Alex shouts that he'll save her and tells her to activate her shield. Yoda fully trusts him and immediately casts the shield spell. At that moment, Alex summons a fire serpent that burns the earthworm alive, turning it into ashes within seconds. Yoda is completely safe. She jumps down and runs toward Alec, laughing as she says that he's still the strongest attack mage she knows. She says today's fight reminded her of their academy days. She recalls how once at the academy, they fought a 5-headed dragon so powerful that no weapon could hurt it. But Alec erased it with a single spell. With just a little preparation, they cleared dungeon floor 68 on the same day and set a new record at the academy. She says it's time for Alec to reunite with his old party, Shireen. When they defeated the level 68 boss and returned to the Magic Academy, everyone welcomed them enthusiastically. They were told that they were the best batch the academy had ever seen. Even their instructor, Rosie, realized that there was something special about those 4 students. They understood each other perfectly and were unbeatable as a team. When they returned from the dungeon, their bodies were covered in wounds and cuts, but their faces were filled with wide smiles. They had broken the Academy's greatest record. Before them, no team had ever gone past floor 32, but they had cleared the entire level 68 dungeon with ease. Then came graduation day. Rosie announced the final scores. Ren ranked 4th. Crazia was 3rd. Yoda took 2nd place. And at the very top was Alec, the highest scoring student in recent history in the class valedictorian. Everyone was happy back then. They were joking around, teasing their instructor and getting lightly scolded as the 4 of them left the academy together. Other students watched them with jealous eyes, believing that these 4 would become a legendary party known across the entire continent. No one expected that Alec would suddenly decide not to become an adventurer and instead choose to become a court magician. His companions were shocked, but they also knew that a court magician's life was easier with higher pay and less danger. So instead of blaming him, they wished him well. Back then, Yoda had promised that one day they would fight together again. And now that promise had finally come true. In the present, Yoda and Alec are enjoying themselves at a bar. After just one glass of a boosted drink, Yoda completely blacks out and gets drunk. She starts angrily complaining about why they still haven't been given permission to enter deeper dungeons. A short while later, she falls asleep on the bench. Alex smiles, thinking that she was always like this, even during their academy days, full of energy. He takes off his jacket and gently drapes it over her so she doesn't get cold. But a man sitting at the bar gets irritated when he sees this. He walks over and starts mocking Alec. Alec ignores him, thinking the guy looks like an Andrew Tate fan with a bad attitude and serious anger issues. Enraged, the man grabs a bottle and tries to smash it over Alec's head, but Alec effortlessly activates a mana shield and the bottle stops midair. Seeing this, the man smiles, clearly happy that Alec finally noticed him. He says he knew Alec was a court magician. He adds that he never expected someone as elite as Alec to try becoming an adventurer. Alec is surprised, but he's even more shocked when the man pulls a card from his pocket and places it in front of him. It's an adventurer pass. Alec asks what he's doing. The man says it's an apology token for the bottle test, but if Alec wants that pass, he'll have to show his magic. Alec is still confused when suddenly Yoda wakes up, rubbing her eyes, and says, "Oh, Guildmaster, what are you doing here?" Alec freezes. Is this man really the Guildmaster? And why is he giving him this kind of pass? Now looking much calmer, the man hands Alec the pass and tells him to come with him. He takes both of them toward the training grounds and explains that this is an underground training area beneath the academy where he tests parties that want to raise their level. And this is where Alec will have to show his true power. It wasn't the right time, and Alec had already had a few drinks, but he confidently says to relax and that he still has plenty of mana left to fight. That's when the guild master finally gives a proper introduction and says his name is Levi. Alex's mind immediately flashes back. Levi, that's the same name as the former leader of an S-rank party, a legendary figure. Levi laughs and says, "Those old days feel like a distant memory now." Then he explains the rules of the test. They're simple. Impress him with magic. That's it. Both of them get ready to spar. Alec makes the first move and fires off a powerful thunderbolt spell. Levi expertly dodges it and counters with water magic, launching massive spheres of water toward Alec. As Alec dodges them, he realizes that Levi has a clear range advantage. That means he needs to change his strategy. He decides to take the fight into close combat. But the moment Alec moves forward, Levi doesn't retreat. Instead, he slams his fist into the ground, uses reinforcement magic to boost his speed, and rushes at Alec like lightning. At the last second, he sidesteps, circles around Alec so fast he looks like a blur and then lands a devastating punch. Alec barely blocks it with his mana shield. The shield shatters and Alec is sent crashing into the wall. Impressed, Levi says it's incredible that Alec survives such a powerful hit since most people wouldn't even be able to stand afterward. But Alec steps out of the cloud of dust, smiles, and says that Levi truly is a real S-rank adventurer. Levi is confused. He expected Alec to panic or break, but instead, Alec calmly says that he forgets sometimes that he's no longer a court magician. Back then, he was only allowed to use defensive magic and follow strict rules. But now, he's free, and now he can use all of his magic. Levi laughs and tells him to come at him. Alec raises his staff, but this time, he transforms it into a magical blade. Levi throws water balloons again, but Alec dodges swiftly and slices one apart with a single slash. He acts like he's going fully offensive, baiting Levi into using his full strength. That was the plan. The moment Levi activates his boosting magic and charges straight at him, Alec triggers a trap beneath him. A thunderbolt explosion hits Levi hard and Alec flashes past him like a streak of lightning. Levi stands still for a moment, then smiles and says that Alec is on a completely different level and actually overpowered his magic. Alec thinks the fight is over, but Levi isn't done yet. He activates his trump card, magical gauntlets made from dragon scales. The moment he puts them on, his strength multiplies. Levi charges at Alec with full force. Alec barely dodges the first punch, which slams into the ground and leaves a massive crater. Alec retreats, but he refuses to give up. He fires a lightning spell, but Levi swats it away like it's nothing, completely ignoring the hit. Levi pushes through the thunder attack and tries to land a direct punch. Alec blocks it with his shield, but still gets pushed back. He realizes this is insane. Levi is like a monster, and Levi still has more tricks left. He activates the special ability of his magical gauntlets, instantly healing all his injuries. Alec understands that the longer this fight goes on, the lower his chances of winning become, so he decides to go all out. He launches relentless attacks at Levi, one after another, but Levi blocks every single one, mocking him and asking if that's all he's got. Alec doesn't back down. He fires back with some trash talk of his own, tilting the guild master. Enraged, Levi throws a powerful punch, but Alec dodges instantly and catches an opening. Levi gets even angrier and attacks again with full force, but his punch crashes into the wall as Alec ducks underneath. When the dust clears, Alec emerges completely unharmed and rushes toward Levi. But just as he attacks, his staff suddenly goes limp and Alec collapses to the ground. He's unconscious. His mana is completely depleted. Yoda immediately rushes over and starts healing him with regeneration magic. At that moment, Ren walks in and laughs, telling Levi that even as an S-rank adventurer, he really went all out on a low-rank guy. Levi glares at him and tells him to shut up, saying he was just testing Alec's limits anyway and that he had already planned to pass him. Ren carries Alec to a room so he can rest, then sits down on the floor, feeling nostalgic. He says it's been a long time since they all sat together like this. Suddenly, the receptionist bursts into the room and says she urgently needs the guildmaster. Without a word, Levi grabs her by the face and drags her outside. After Levi leaves, Ren grabs a few bottles of booze and asks Yoda to tell him everything that happened to Alec. As she explains, Ren's anger keeps growing. He learns that Alec's previous party treated him like nothing more than a pack mule, forcing him to manage inventory and forbidding him from using magic except for defensive spells. They didn't even allow him to carry a small dagger. Furious, Ren smashes a bottle, and the sound wakes Alec up. Alec sits up, still a bit confused, but smiles when he sees Ren. Yoda laughs and tells him that the guildmaster gave them the pass. Alec's face lights up as he realizes that means they can now go into higher-level dungeons together. Ren smiles, but says that before that, there's one more thing they need to do. Alec doesn't understand what Ren means. Ren grins and says that first they need revenge. He explains that they should infiltrate the royal city, reach the palace, and beat the prince and his party into the ground. What? Alec immediately refuses, saying they're not doing that. Yoda nods and reminds him that fighting other parties is strictly forbidden. Alec places a hand on Ren's shoulder and calmly says that he doesn't care about what happened in the court anymore. For him, their life as adventurers is more than enough. Ren thinks for a moment. Then a mischievous smile appears on his face. He says he's got it. If they really want revenge, they should become the strongest party in the world. Then the prince will burn to ashes on his own. And if the kingdom ever needs help, they'll be forced to come begging. And how satisfying it would be to say no to their faces. Alec laughs and agrees to the deal, and just like that, they decide that their new goal is to become the strongest party in the world. Elsewhere, in another room, an S-rank adventurer named Krista lies badly injured, barely breathing, as the receptionist applies bandages to her body. Levi's face is grim. If even an S-rank party is in trouble, that means the entire guild is at risk. In a weak voice, Krista says that her party is still trapped inside and needs help. Levi immediately calls an emergency meeting and orders all A-rank adventurers to prepare for a rescue mission to Dungeon Floor 64. Back in Alex's room, he meets Crazia. After a long time, both of her personalities seem much more mature. She asks why he didn't attend the meeting. Alec laughs and says it's because he's not an A-rank adventurer. Crazia immediately casts a healing spell and all of Alex's injuries vanish in an instant. Just then, Yoda and Ren rush in. Ren excitedly shouts that they're going on a rescue mission. He explains that this dungeon is different. On floor 64, magic can't be used at all. Everything depends on potions. The S-rank party was completely wiped out and only Krista managed to escape to seek help. Alec asks Greya if she'll be okay working in a dungeon like that since her specialty is healing magic. She snaps back angrily saying she opposed it, but that idiot Ren vetoed her and sent them in anyway. They immediately start arguing again. Yoda steps in and says that the final decision should be Alec's. After all, the hardest task will fall on him, defeating the main floor boss. Alec thinks for a moment, then nods and says, it's decided. They're going. And so, fully prepared, they head toward the dungeon. Standing at the entrance, Ren smiles and says that this is where their legend begins.